Hey, what is up guys? My name is Stan, and in this video I'm going to try to answer some of your questions about the Edelkrone SliderOne versus the JibONE, or sorry, SliderPLUS versus the JibONE. I actually have had my two systems for a while now, and I've had a lot of time to play and compare and contrast the two. So I want to try to talk about the pros and cons of each system because they certainly have their strengths and weaknesses, and perhaps that will help you in your purchasing decisions, see why you would go with one system versus the other. So let's get into it. Now, first and foremost, I want to just put this out there. I actually purchased both of these systems with my own money, so this isn't a sponsored video. So I'm trying to give you as fair of information as I can. Now, both systems are very capable systems. In fact, both systems have a lot of overlap in their capabilities, meaning a SliderPLUS with a head plus unit can do slides, it can do pans, it can do panning from left to right and sliding at the same time. So you have a very good 365-degree angle movement along the track. Now, the JibONE, on the other hand, if you compare the JibONE with the Pan Pro as well as the Head Plus unit, you get 360-degree rotation with the up and down vertical, as well as a 360-degree rotation on the head unit. So you basically get the full sphere 360 movement. When you compare these two, the JibONE does have a little bit more movement capability, almost like a robotic arm, at being able to cover everything in a 360 sphere, basically. While the SliderPLUS only moves on a single track. However, in reality, this isn't really that big of a deal because it's not like the JibONE is in a single location at all times, fixed to the wall, right? You can kind of move it around, or let me back up. The SliderPLUS, you can kind of move it around, rotate it around, have it slide this way, have it slide that way. So in reality, the fact that you can position the JibONE anywhere you want is kind of lost, right? Or the benefit isn't as great as you may think. So when it comes to flexibility, comes to slide, comes to movement, both systems are very capable and should be able to complete most of the things that you really want to shoot anyway. Now, if you talk about the capabilities in terms of weight, the SliderPLUS has a much higher weight capability limit. So the SliderPLUS comes in two versions, a regular version and a pro version, as well as the head. The head also has a regular version and a pro version. The setup that I've got for my C200 is a SliderPLUS Pro and a Head Plus Pro built for the larger cinema camera. It's just a little bit easier to balance, handles the weight a little bit better. So considering that setup, in fact, you can actually put an even larger camera on top of that setup if you need. However, if you look at the JibONE can only take a Head Plus. It cannot take a Head Plus Pro because there is too much weight levered out for the JibONE to handle. Because as you add more weight on the end of the JibONE, the counterweight has to counterbalance that, and it just gets too heavy for the system handle. That's why the limit, you can only go up to a Head Plus, you cannot go to Head Plus Pro, and you basically can't use cinema cameras. You can only use small-ish DSLRs. So if you stick with DSLRs, almost all DSLRs are capable to be used on the JibONE. However, if you have something bigger, that's where the SliderPLUS is much better to use. Now, in terms of movement and the types of shots you can get. So for the JibONE, you can clearly go up and down vertical swings. You can go pans, you can do diagonal swings, you can turn 360. The real benefit of the JibONE versus the SliderPLUS is basically that vertical movement, clearly the jib. If you are looking for that vertical shot, JibONE is the way to go. However, for everything else, the slider can do. However, the slider is able to make one kind of shot better than the JibONE, and that is a full linear pan. And what I mean by that is the JibONE, when it moves across, when a panning mode, it can do pans, but there is an arc to this pan, meaning you kind of move in closer to the object and then move away again. So it's not a straight linear line. The SliderPLUS, on the other hand, is a linear line, and you can move very, very slowly without rotating the camera. And even if you do rotate the camera, there isn't a getting closer and getting further away feel as you move through the slide. So that's where the SliderPLUS excels. In my opinion, I actually prefer the SliderPLUS's shots, or the kind of shots that I'm able to get from that. The very, very slow pans or slow slides, I kind of prefer that over the arc motion of the JibONE. That said, I can certainly live with any shot that the JibONE can give me. So there's pros and cons. You just kind of need to figure out how much you're willing to spend on the systems and what kind of shots you really want. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about here is the ease of use between the system. And I have, like I said, I've got both systems here with me. I can use them. I can choose which one to use. It doesn't really matter. But I find myself going to the SliderPLUS system more than the JibONE, and for one primary reason. And this reason is ease of setup and ease of use. What I find that the JibONE, while it's very capable and it's able to do all these different things, is a little bit finicky to use, especially with the balancing system. What do I mean by that? Every time I'm setting up the shot, I have to make sure that it's completely well balanced, and if I were to add a microphone here or make adjustments there, then I've got to rebalance it to make sure that the motors aren't overstressed. And sometimes when they are overstressed, you get that little surging motion because it binds up a little bit and then it lets go. Binds up a little bit and lets go. So you get that surge, and basically I need to make sure that there's no tension in there to get that perfect movement. The SliderPLUS, on the other hand, I just put whatever I want on the camera, and then I just select point A, select point B, and it goes from A to B, and it's easy to set up, and I can manhandle it. I can move it from here to there, not a problem. The JibONE, on the other hand, it's a big system, right? It's wide, it's long, so if I need a JibONE type shot, sure, I'll use it. But if the SliderPLUS can do the same shot that the JibONE can do, I actually go to the SliderPLUS just because, again, it's a little easier to handle. Now, in terms of price between the two, they're both relatively expensive systems. I think if you actually go with a SliderPLUS and a HeadPlus system with the motorized motor on there, I think that's actually a little bit cheaper than a JibONE with the Pan Pro with the same HeadPlus system. It's all a wash. It's all within a couple $100s, I think. Don't quote me on that. I haven't done the math, but I think that's kind of the perception I get. So, but like I said, both systems are very capable. It really comes down to what do you want out of your system? What kind of shots do you need? Are you doing macro shots where, like, if you got a product, something that you're trying to shoot, and you're trying to move around it? If that's the case, both systems are fine. Now, if you're trying to shoot a person, for example, right, and you're coming down and coming up, yeah, okay, then you'll need the JibONE. So hopefully this didn't confuse you all too much. Just to give you a different perspective, some things to think about. I don't expect this one video is going to be able to make or change your mind. Hopefully you were able to pull out whatever information you want from this little discussion here. So if you learned something, if this was useful for you guys, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more content either on camera stuff or tech or computer stuff, perhaps consider subscribing. Anyway, my name is Stan. I'll see you guys in the next one.